Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Beyond the Frame Live. My name is Dottie San Martin, and as my guest today, I have David J. David is one of the Max training specialists here at Cubica AMF. He's been with us for 3.5 years, and he's had the opportunity to train centers and employees all over the world. So, and prior to coming to Cubica AMF, David was also in the bowling industry in management and operations for 25 years. So, David, welcome.
Thank you, Dottie.
So nice to have you here today.
It's great to be
So,
here.
we have been talking with centers for several weeks now, and centers are opening. We have centers at all different stages. We have some that are just reopening. We have some that have opened and closed back down. We have some that have yet to open. And, there's a lot of challenges and there's been a lot of change that has been necessary in order to reopen. But with change, there's also opportunities. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about some of those changes and some of those opportunities that David has seen through the eyes of a trainer, being in all different kinds of centers. So on our show Tuesday, we had Neil Pennington, and he shared with us some of the feedback from the Some Strings Attached tournament that was this past weekend in Florida. And one of the things that we've discovered is the competitive bowler is really, really ready to get back. And in fact, they're the first ones to come back in the center in most cases. And so that's what we've been seeing. David, I'm curious, is that what you've been seeing? And if so, what are centers doing to attract them back in?
It is what I've been seeing for, I think, multiple reasons. The competitive bowler was just chomping at the bit, ready to get back to bowling. Not that the recreational bowlers have not been coming in also, but the competitive bowlers, bear in mind that most centers shut down the middle of March, which is, competitive bowling season. We're finishing up our leagues. We're preparing for national tournaments, city tournaments, state tournaments, tournaments all over the country during the summer, and that was all taken away. So when centers reopened, the competitive bowlers were ready to get back. What I think the centers and tournament directors also really capitalized on was, wow, we have this opportunity to get our competitive bowlers back in the centers. Let's give them something to bowl. I've noticed that it hasn't really been, it's got to have a certain entry fee or a certain prize fund, or we just want to bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've seen multiple centers that have taken advantage of that, where they would normally maybe have a league on a couple of nights a week. We'll run maybe a scratch sweeper one night. They'll put in a no tap on another night. We'll have a little mixed doubles on the weekend. I've seen youth adult, anything that is competitive in any way. And when I say the competitive bowler, I'm not saying just like the high average or scratch bowlers.
Mm-hmm.
People want to compete, and it doesn't matter what level it is. And also, it's not always about the money. It can be about just going out and compete and seeing your friends and seeing the other people that you've missed for 4 or 5 months.
That's right. That's right. The other thing is, you are, centers that have, the different scoring systems, they are being creative and they're looking through their system and they're finding, ways that these people can compete and keep it ever changing, but have it as a variety, sweepers with different formats and different features that they're pulling out and allowing some kind of creative competition. So
Absolutely.
I think that's really good to see the systems being fully utilized that way. Field trips have always been a big part of revenue for bowling centers. And with the uncertainty these days of what's going to happen with school, is it going to be online only or hybrid? And really, no matter what, we know that field trips are going to be impacted, and centers are going to be looking for ways to fill that void that field trips are going to bring. So, or lack of field trips are going to bring. What have you seen that centers are doing to kind of offset that potential loss?
So really what I've seen is it's still a creative process, and they're still trying to figure that out. We As we get closer to what should be school time, um,
Mm-hmm.
which nobody really knows when that exactly is going to be, depending on what state you're in. What's happening is that there's going to be some sort of school, whether it's going to be completely online, some, as you said, some hybrid, uh, moving more. I see more and more people talking about, well, I'm just going to homeschool
Mm-hmm.
and get in a homeschool group. Regardless of what that ends up being, the discussions that I've been having with proprietors and centers the last couple of months have kind of centered around how do we capture that group?
Mm-hmm.
Every So in Texas, and I can't speak for every state, but in Texas, there's going to be a PE requirement. School's going to have a PE requirement, but you're not going to do that online. That's going to be something that you're going to be tasked to do on your own. So centers have been talking about, how do we capture that? Do we do that as, let's just put it out there that, hey, we have a program that will satisfy your PE requirement and try to target individuals? Or do we try to target a school or a school district and say, we want to put together a program that would be encompassing for all of your, all of your elementary schools or all of your middle schools or whatever the case
Mm-hmm.
may be? The challenge obviously then becomes, where do we go to get our foot in the door? Who do we talk to? And as we have these discussions, and when I say we, I've been in 7 states in the last 8 weeks, um, everybody kind of says the same thing. How do we capture that? What would you suggest? And my thought has turned to really how my family reacted during the end of school. And everybody knows a teacher now. Whether
Mm-hmm.
you had real contact with your child's teacher before, I promise you, you've had more in the last 3 months of school than typical. Everybody knows a teacher, and hopefully you've got a good relationship with that teacher. Talk to a teacher in your child's school. Talk to a teacher that may bowl in your center, and see where to go. At the very least, even if they don't say, well, you should go talk to this person, you've now put the seed in their mind that, hey, here's an opportunity, and how can we develop that? So that's one thing. And the other thing that I have stressed is, it's not just about the children needing a PE requirement or something to do. The kids aren't going to come to your center on their own. They're going to have a parent bringing them. So not only do the kids have a PE requirement when they get out of the house, but I promise you they have an adult with them that wants out just as much. So
Absolutely.
programs for those parents, while the kids are there bowling, let's do something for the parents. And then we can expand on that later on and go with a adult youth, adult child. It doesn't have to be a league. It could just be an outing. But once you get that ball rolling, it could go
That's
anywhere.
exactly right. And speaking of PE requirements, um, there is a great curriculum that BPAA has put together. I don't know if everyone is aware of it, but they did a fantastic job with the curriculum. So reach out to BPAA if you're wanting to set up something where they actually get credit for the PE. Again, there's some really great curriculum that BPAA has, and it's just one of your benefits. So I would certainly recommend taking a look into that if you want to start some sort of program like that.
Certainly.
So, the also the other challenge that came along is the fact that centers are um, limited on capacity. And so, as a result of the occupancy and group size being smaller, it's resulted in centers really taking a good look at their policies and making some changes to those policies so that they can continue to get people in for parties, and especially going into this time of the year where typically, you're ramping up for your holiday parties in the center. So how have you seen centers that are modifying what they have to accommodate these limitations that they're now seeing for groups and size capacity?
Obviously, the centers aren't able to swing for the fences anymore. We're not in the position for the complete center rental and the all-encompassing, uh, you know, food and beverage buffet and 5 hours of bowling and adding in, if you have the attractions, laser tag or arcade or whatever centers can do. So yes, they're having to ramp that down. And what I've seen is even more of a customization, if you will, for smaller groups, but not doing the huge event anymore, but doing a single attraction package, still with food and beverage, if that's what they want to do, but a single attraction package with a more concise time frame.
Mm-hmm.
One, it people seem to be more comfortable with a smaller amount of time. We're going to be in the center less amount of time. So if we're going to do that, let's do an hour of bowling and let's include the food and beverage. Or centers that have other attractions are doing um, you know a, a laser tag with a food and beverage.
Sure.
Their goal, at least what they're telling me, is we can control our inventory much easier if we control the amount of time people are there. So let's do everything in hour increments. That way we're turning over our inventory and we can rotate that inventory a lot quicker. And it allows the customer to feel that level of safety and comfort as opposed to being in one environment for too long.
Absolutely. And do you find that most of the centers, I know that most everything now, they're going to time bowling because it is so much easier to manage the flow of your customers through your center. Are you finding that the majority of the centers are reservation only?
So let me speak to the first comment, and that's about time bowling. And yes, obviously it's a whole lot easier to control your inventory and the time people are there if we're doing just time bowling. The extension of that has been even centers that didn't prepay their guests before are doing that now. So it's all time or mostly time and prepay. On the reservation side, centers that already had a reservation process in place, specifically an online reservation process,
Mhm.
are doing that exclusively. We're taking this many reservations, and it's much easier to control if you do it that way. Centers that didn't have that process in place already have attempted to do reservations by phone. Obviously, there are some pitfalls to that, uh,
Sure.
uh, you know, but the ones that are doing reservations by phone are not reserving all of their lanes. They still want to allow a certain amount of walk-in business,
Hmm.
but most centers are going to some sort of reservation, yes.
Okay. And, many centers have shared with us that there's still some reservations for families. They're still not quite sure if they're comfortable bringing in, their little ones. And what have you seen in your travels as a trainer? How are the centers reaching out to those families and getting them back into the center?
So the we go from reservations to reservations about families. Um, so families reservations, they're there. Obviously, there's certain things that, as we spoke before, I still haven't gone to a restaurant to actually eat somewhere. I apologize, that phone is in the
That's
bulletin.
okay. You're in a center. I
Um,
understand.
so for families, I think the best advertising to get families back into the bowling centers is going to come from word of mouth. It's going to come from families. We can do, we can make superhuman efforts in the bowling center to, and centers across the country are doing this every day, to make it as safe and as comfortable and the environment as inviting as we possibly can. But if the word doesn't get out and people don't talk about it, it's not going to make any difference. The other thing, yes, we're doing all of these cleaning, all the sanitizing, all the safety measures. I want to make sure, and I try to stress this, yes, we're doing all of that, but let's not make it a sterile environment for
That's right.
fun. It's still bowling. It's still a great game. It's still fun. And we need to make sure that the customer service piece of what we do extends to that. And we don't forget that we don't provide customers with anything to walk away with. They're not walking away with a purse or a shirt or a hat or a picture or anything. They're walking away with a feeling.
That's
And
right.
that feeling needs to be threefold now. It used to just be make sure when they walk out the door that we are, we're smiling, thank you for coming, please see us again, all of those important things. Now we need to add that on top of, I hope you felt safe, thank you for coming, thank you for visiting. So I think the word of mouth and making sure that people are comfortable in your center, but also having fun in their center and are willing to come back.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you know that actually is better than any advertising. We've said it so many times before. When you get that seal of approval through a Facebook post from the friend, or a story on Instagram about the great experience and how clean and nice it was, those words mean more to a young family than anything that we could actually generate ourselves. And so I think that's, just very important to make sure that you're striving for that. And
Mhm.
that's your goal, is to make everybody feel comfortable. I have said it before. You want to make that experience Insta worthy, and when you do something and they enjoy it and they feel comfortable and they post it on Instagram, that you have succeeded in making that a great experience for them. And so that's always a good thing.
Mhm.
So, well, David, as we are starting to kind of wrap things up today, I like to always ask, if our viewers today, if there were three things that you would hope that they would take away from this show today, what would those three things be?
Narrow it down to three, huh? Um,
Well,
so
we'll have to
first,
keep it, yeah.
yeah, okay.
Or
First,
so. How's that?
I guess I would go back to something um, that came up last week on the webinar from one of my friends, Philip Cox, and his thing was don't rest on your laurels,
Mm-hmm.
and be proactive, be persistent, and be creative. And in our line of work, we see centers of all shapes and sizes and business models. And I think one of the exciting things is that I see more and more centers being creative in what they're doing. and taking more chances and going back and saying, okay, this is what we used to do, but maybe we need to do something different now. So I would say that is one thing. Another thing would be um, bowling as an industry has always been very resilient, and bowlers are resilient also, whether it be recreational or professional or league bowlers or proprietors, anybody in the bowling business. We're a family, and it's a big bowling family. Make sure that you utilize that family, use your community. We're all in this together, and we'll get through it together, but don't think you're out there on your own. And
Absolutely.
lastly is, don't be stale. Don't let your business get stale. I know that we may have been closed for months, and when you reopen, a lot of centers are doing a lot of renovations and upgrades, whether it just be paint and carpet and flooring, or whether it's new scoring or whatever it may be. Everybody's done something, but there are so many other places in your center that you can make it look fresh without really spending any more money.
That's
Whether
right.
it's a scoring grid, or changing your advertising, or a new greeting or a new sales pitch, the way that we greet and explain what our offerings are. Um, Everything we do, all of that can just be done with the scoring and the management system that you currently have, and with your employees.
That's
Um,
right.
a smile goes a long way, but as we've always said, and I've seen it in person this week. I know that the person that I talked to at the grocery store was not smiling at me when I said have a great day, but I smiled at her, and I felt better about it, you know,
That's right.
whether she was happy or not.
That's exactly right. Well, the other thing I'll add to that I hope the viewers take away from today's show is that we are seeing change, we are seeing creativity, and I hope that that doesn't stop when this new norm is in place. I hope that that continues, because that's going to continue to we're going to continue to see centers grow long after the pandemic is over. And I think that it's just really created some good practices for centers, and I really hope to see that continue. So, well, David, thank you so much for taking time out today to be with us and share some of the things that you've seen as you've been traveling around. Gosh, ever since this happened, you've still been continuing to train and be there for our customers and help them through this. So we appreciate you taking time out. And I think the center you're at now is just getting ready to reopen. So that's kind of exciting.
It is reopening Saturday afternoon, so
Well,
I made them take a break so that I could do this.
Well, very good. Well, we wish them the best of luck. Well, thanks again for joining us, David. And I want to remind our viewers to make sure that you stop at the Cubic AMF website, the customer resource page, and take a look. We have access to all of the recorded webinars there. We have access to the e-shop. We have access to the marketing kit. There's just so many things that are there for you to help you through this. Also, next week, my colleague Jay Nephew will be back. And he is going to have, as his guest on Tuesday, he's going to have product manager Chad Estes, and they are going to talk about time bowling and how web reservations really is conducive to time bowling, and how you can actually grow with time bowling and utilizing web reservations. So that's going to be a very interesting conversation, and one I'm sure you won't want to miss. So again, David, thank you so much for being with us. And
My pleasure.
viewers,
Thank
thank
you.
you for tuning in. We were very excited to be with you today, and we hope that you continue thinking beyond the frame and keeping that aggressiveness and that determination to get your customers back in your center. And until next week, we wish you all the best of luck. Stay safe and stay well.